Un, deux, trois, hey, Dolly boy, you really make me wanna vomit.
Hello, my name is Dusty O'Brien, and
I'm Tim.
we have a show that we're going to start doing on YouTube and possibly a podcast, and it's going to be called Headliners with Tim and Dusty.
Yep. We're going to talk about random shit. We're going to listen to local bands. We're going to listen to big bands. Just basically anything we want to listen to and we feel like sharing with you.
Probably bi-weekly. No promises on that. Depends on what's going on, but maybe we'll do it more frequently. Maybe we won't do it every other week if we are getting busy. But we're not going to be catering to anybody. We're also not going to be censoring ourselves. So this is a warning. The very first video you ever see is going to be me saying, I am a crazy son of a bitch sometimes, and if you don't like that, I'm not going to be censoring myself. So
So I know a lot of people out there actually want to see this side of Dusty too. So
a lot of you don't. So there are going to be episodes where it'll be, kid-friendly, and we'll talk about things. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. You're a big idiot, but we'll talk about things that are family friendly, but there's probably going to be a lot of swear words, and I'm really looking forward to showcasing local music. So I am currently the drummer in a band called Wasted Breath, based out of Spokane, Washington, and Tim,
I play bass for Snakes and Sermons, also based out of Spokane, Washington. I guess kind of technically Spokane Valley, but whatever.
right, and so we're both on a record label called Black House Records, based out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And so I want to bring people on, and I want to talk to them about music, also politics and things like that. So we're going to keep you updated on.
Can we talk about religion?
If we must, and not a whole lot of editing. That's something that I want to kind of hammer down as well. Is that whatever comes out of our mouths is going straight to YouTube, which probably we won't be running for office in the future. I'm guessing.
Right after he says that, there's going to be an edit here, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay.
Edit some cute little panda in or something.
Right. So there's really no plan on what we're going to be doing, but it's going to be bi-weekly. It's called Headliners, right?
Headliners, I think that's what we're hammering it down to now.
Headliners with Tim and Dusty, bi-weekly, and come watch us and listen to us be idiots.
Yeah. How many times did Dusty say bi-weekly and headliners?
A lot. Too many.
So, what are the shows you
Hey,
got coming up?
bi-weekly, and it's called Headliners, right? So we're going to do another take of this, or not?
No, we'll keep it. Fuck. Oh, fuck off. What shows you got coming up?
I didn't prepare for that, so I don't memorize dates at all.
All right, well, we're going to be playing a show together on
February 9th,
February 9th at
the Observatory.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time.
Itchy Kitty's opening, and then Snakes and Sermons have the good spot, the second spot, which Wasted Breath just played the Observatory 2 days ago, and that is the best spot. We had it was the Drag, and then it was Foxtrot Epidemic, and then it was Wasted Breath, us, and then Sid and the Emergency Exit. And that spot that you guys have, that like second to headline, like right before the supporting act,
Yeah.
is the fucking spot to play, man. Like the bar is packed, people are out hanging out, and so usually the headliners get the shittiest crowd. So congrats on having the good spot.
Didn't you set it up?
I did, and I did it on purpose. We were celebrating you coming out of the.
I was going to say, yeah.
Out of retirement.
Out of retirement, yep.
So now you have to explain that whole situation about. You used to be in a band.
I used to be in a band, Two Word Culture. A lot of people will remember it. Most people won't, which is fine.
You were on the news.
Yeah, we were on the news. It was basically nu metal, and I've come to terms with that now. It was
rap rock. It was. I missed. It was like Rage Against the Machine, but your singer thought it was super punk rock. So that's fine. What are labels? You don't label things.
I'm not worried about it. I'm just saying that it
So-
took me a long time to realize that it was nu metal, and that's okay.
Right. That's fine. So you're in a band called Two Word Culture.
I was in a band called Two Word Culture. Yeah, we played around for like 10 years. It was ridiculous, actually. Got a little burnout. kind of took a step away for a while. Back now. It's been a lot of fun. The guys from Snakes have sort of welcomed me with open arms. It's been fun playing bass. I usually play guitar.
Now I come to you.
With open arms.
That's great. Not to interrupt again.
No, you're fine.
Did you know a show's called Headliners and it's going to be bi-weekly?
I did.
I just wanted to hammer that home one more time. So I knew Snakes before you were in the band, obviously.
Well, I saw
know
him once at the observatory with you, actually.
Really? That's awesome. They're super nice guys, and I knew that you were going to fit in. And I think that when it comes to being in a band, that personalities meshing are definitely more important than anything. Like if you were to take me, who's like traditionally a punk rock drummer, and stick me in a fucking metal band, I wouldn't be very happy. But I would do it because I listen to metal. But it doesn't matter like that I'm not a metal drummer. It would mostly matter that I got along with those people and could like be in a van with them for a week and not have them want to stab me. So
Fair.
and I think that you were the perfect fit for Snakes.
No, yeah, it's been great. I went in. Never been a big punk rock guy, but I went in, with an open mind, and I've been having a blast with those guys. We have a lot of fun. For those of you who don't know, it's Joel plays drums, Rob on guitar, Ethan, he's the vocalist. They got a really cool sound. You can check it out. We'll put a link somewhere in this so you can check out both of our bands.
But what made you want to come back and play again?
It's a good question. It's been a long time and I miss it. So like, I don't know. I look at it like, the way some guys work on cars.
You just can't get away from it. You're
Well,
like,
no,
"Yeah,
they like to work on cars and make shit, and not necessarily that anything's going to be ever worth anything or whatever, but it's fun to do. I have a blast. I'm glad it's with these guys because, like I said, they've been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When's
They
this-
are awesome.
When's the social
So-
media thing going on, by the way?
I know that it is super rude for me to be on my cell phone when we're doing this. However, I did find information on when the next two shows are. So
There we go. So, Wasted Breath, Dusty.
I'm
Dusty's
not going
in-
to get into a big long story. So I started playing drums when I was 8 years old. I've been serious about it since I was like 14. I started playing with a band who did a little tiny stuff around the Midwest. But since I've been in Spokane for like the last 12 years, it's kind of been my only focus. My passion and all that kind of stuff. So I met up with these guys, Kyle Butler and Gary Gwynn, and they had been playing together for about 10 years.
Jeez,
And,
I didn't know that. That's ridiculous.
yeah, they've known each other since high school. And so they needed somebody who was going to be like a drummer that could step in and kind of do their thing.
An amazing drummer. If you've never heard Dusty
Stop
play, you
doing
should
that.
you should come out and check him out.
Makes me very uncomfortable.
Eat a dick.
So I joined the band, and things worked out. We got along. So we've been together about 2 years, and got into Black House Records, met Joel and Ethan. I knew Ethan from a while ago, but knew the guys in Snakes and Sermons. Anyhow, you asked about shows. Wasted Breath, The Dead Channels, and Foxtrot Epidemic are opening for Scatterbox at the Big Dipper January 26th. It starts at 7:30, and it's $5, and it's all ages, which is really super rare for our kind of music. So if you do want to bring the kids out and, destroy them and make them deaf for the rest of their life, bring them out to that show. And then once again, like Tim was saying, we have Itchy Kitty, Snakes and Sermons, and Wasted Breath, February 9th at the Observatory. It's at 9 p.m., $6, and it is 21 and over. So I'll put my phone away.
Come out, have a drink with us, buy us a drink. That'd be great.
That's the best part, yes.
Yeah, really, whatever. Just come hang out.
So I don't know what else to talk about right now, but I do want to have guests on.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing. We want to bring on. Maybe we'll start with like our own bands or something.
I think that's a good idea.
Kind of test the waters to see if you guys like it.
Yep. And if you don't, too bad.
Yeah, because we're going to just do what we want to
gonna
do.
do it anyways.
That's kind of the point of this.
But I want to pick it like a sweet like intro song, and I want to get a graphic together for a logo. Like we have big plans, so just stay tight. This has gone on for way too long for a promo, but I want to welcome you to the show, and hopefully we will have something that you would be interested in hearing us say. If not...
And fuck off, we're going to do it anyways.
Exactly.
So we are headliners. This is Dusty. I'm
And-
Tim.
Tim, and we will see you around. Thank you.
And cut. See, that wasn't bad.
Every other word is and, fuck, shit.
So since we got this running right now and recording anyways, your first local show experience. It could have been in Chicago.
What was my first show
Well,
ever?
what made you want to play local music? Like, so here's mine. So I remember when I was fucking 13, I think. There was this guy walking around the neighborhood down by Davis's house, and for those of you who don't know Davis, just a longtime friend, used to hang out at his house all the time. This guy was going door to door, and we were kind of like, 13, so you're finding your musical preferences and tastes and all that. Guy going door to door. I remember he was really cool because he had tattoos. Because, cool guys back then had tattoos.
Really cool guys.
now,
Tattoos.
now only idiots have tattoos. But yeah, he was going door to door and basically asking all the neighbors permission. Like, hey, we're going to be playing this show in this garage. Don't call the cops on us. And I remember thinking that was so fucking cool. So we ran down the block to track this guy down. And we did. We found out it was going to be a kegger. So at 13, of course,
You're going to be there.
we were going to be there. $5 for the cup. Cup was refillable. It was an awesome night. But we saw bands like Dead Face Down, I think was the name of the band. They were like a death metal band.
And this is in Spokane?
It was in a garage down the street from Davis's house. It was fucking awesome. It was like a big garage. We saw Dead Face Down. We saw, I can't remember their name, but it was the band that is Concrete Grip now.
Okay.
Back when they were still in fucking high school, I think.
Are you certain this wasn't Rob's show? Rob's not much older than us, but Rob is like mid to late 30s. And Rob
been.
used to put shows together like crazy from when he was a kid. He was putting on shows in garages.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I remember it being a fucking blast because we just got shit-faced drunk and we listened to metal music, and I thought it was so cool because the guys on stage had like the best stage personas, I guess, and they were sitting there smoking weed out of bongs, and like I thought it was the coolest thing. So that's what kind of like just sort of that whole atmosphere was the thing that made me initially want to play music live.
Yeah, I want to be a stoner in a garage. And
No, I
waste
just
my life
I just
away.
thought it was awesome. Like the kids in the neighborhood were all coming around, and like it wasn't just
It
kids.
is awesome.
There was like
It's
100
a-
people there in a fucking garage.
It's a community, and I think that is a huge thing that draws a lot of people into a scene. And it doesn't have I have a punk rock background. You're more of a metal guy, but it doesn't matter what genre it is. I think that if it's a fucking jazz club, in Louisiana, it's not necessarily the music that draws people in, as opposed to it's a family of people that all have the same interests and are passionate about the same thing.
Right.
And it's important to find those people, that has molded both of us into the people that we become, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Right? But, yeah, so that was your very first,
Well, that
rock
was
and roll show?
that was my first rock and roll show, but that was like the thing that made me realize that I wanted to play music live, because like at that point I had never played guitar. I had never done anything, and I actually wanted to be a vocalist back then. Like I really wanted.
I had the same.
I know you did, which is funny.
That's
And
why you asked this question.
I don't think I've ever told you that story. But yeah, I wanted to be a vocalist, and like we got a couple guys together and we played we tried writing really shitty songs, and like we covered Blur
Nice.
song number 2.
Yeah.
Because it was easy and it was fun.
It's
But,
a fun song.
Like, what pushed you towards it? Like, what was your first experience that you can think of?
I don't know. I have I could tackle this in so many different ways, and I have so many different stories, but
First punk rock show that made you fall in love with punk rock live?
I saw the Misfits when I was in
Graves
8th
Misfits,
grade.
right?
Yeah, Michael Graves years.
I was going to say, because you're not
Yeah.
like 60.
Oh shit, no, it wasn't even Michael Graves. It was just the Jerry Only, Robo on drums, and Doyle. So it was like the original three. Doyle's not an original, by the way. He takes
I
credit
know,
for
yeah.
being an original, but
I know that story.
it was those three. It was like the fucking Misfits, and it was in Chicago. And my brother took me, and I was in 8th grade, and I purposely skipped out. There was this huge project that we had to do in 8th grade for like a what fuck class was that? It was like a political class, and it was really important. You like spend an entire quarter of school like doing this project,
For me, it was econ. I had to do
Econ?
stocks.
right? Fuck. School's horrible.
School is
Drop
great.
out if you're no, finish school. But anyhow, my brother's like, hey, the Misfits are fucking playing. I'm starting at the wrong spot, so we got to go back. Okay, so this is gonna take way too long, and I apologize.
No, don't
to everybody.
don't apologize to anybody. If
Okay.
anything, we'll just fucking whatever.
Okay,
I'm interested in the story. This was what I was talking about. Like
I'm gonna condense things. There's some embarrassing things that happened in
that involve accidental anal.
no,
Okay,
it's never happened. Never had that happen. I mean,
it's always
okay.
It's always on purpose.
Yes. So I was 8 years old. My brother was taking guitar lessons at Paradise Guitars in Beloit, Wisconsin, the town I grew up in. And I was like, that's really cool. And he would come home and he'd play like extreme songs and Poison songs and like
More than words.
yes. And I
Yeah.
would sing along. He learned how to play like Kansas's Dust in the Wind, and I remember like being a little kid and laying on his bed and like singing Dust in the Wind while he played guitar, and I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. Like, I want to sing in a band. I don't know what kind of band, because it was just like my first few tapes were like Vanilla Ice and Poison, and they were his tapes, and
Yeah.
so I'm way too young for that to be my shit, but
Not-
I love it.
Not way too young. You're a child of the '80s.
Right. Okay. So, I told my brother, I was like, I think it'd be cool if I, were to sing or something, and I want to be the front man in a rock and roll band. And he probably doesn't remember saying this, but I remember it vividly. He's like, you're too fat to be a front man for a rock and roll band, and nobody's gonna want to come and watch you dance around on stage and make an idiot of yourself. And so I was like, okay, that's not a quote, but it was along those lines.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well then I'm not going to do that. And the next month or something, my parents took me to a Kenny G concert. And it was at the Metro Center in Rockford, Illinois. And I remember going and being absolutely blown away by his rhythm section. And that sounds really ridiculous that my first professional touring band I ever saw was Kenny G, and I liked it.
That's not ridiculous. It's kind of funny, but it's not ridiculous.
So I was like, holy shit, that drummer, this big fat guy like me, probably smaller than I am now, but this big fat drummer. And I remember my mom being like, that guy moves so well for being so big. And I was like, yeah, he does. That's awesome. He's a fucking rad drummer. And so I went home and thought about it, and my parents came to me eventually, and they're like, do you want to play guitar like your brother? And I was like, no, I think I want to play drums like that guy in Kenny G. that plays with Kenny G. And they're like, okay. So they went out and they fucking fronted me $800 to buy my first drum kit, which I still have.
It's over there, right?
No, it's the fancy fucking one. But in our storage room down here, I have my original drum set that my dad bought for me when I was a kid. And I had to mow lawns and stuff and pay them back eventually. But I had my first drum set, started drum lessons, and the rest is history. But I remember that Misfits show, 8th grade, and my brother was into punk rock, and went to a record store, and I saw the Crimson Ghost for the very first time, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And Sean's like, you didn't know who the Misfits were? No one ever told you? And so he bought me the CD, I listened to it, and then a month later takes me to see the Misfits lineup. And it's Jerry only, Doyle, and Robo on drums. It's without Danzig, that's the closest fucking thing you can get to the original lineup.
So who was singing?
Jerry was
Okay.
trying to sing.
Okay.
Yeah, but Come to think of it, like they just did those like reunion shows where like the original Misfits got back together, and we saw Steph and I saw them in Chicago.
Yeah, like the whole lineup, right?
Yeah, and then they just did one in Vegas and L.A. and it's Dave Lombardo on drums, then the three big ones, you know, Doyle and Jerry and Danzig singing, and then they have some fucker from some shitty like Slipknot fucking goth punk shit that I hate. Sorry. I told you I wasn't going to censor myself. You love Slipknot. I apologize that people enjoy that shit. So, but I don't know who the fuck he is. And if he sees it, I'm sorry, but like, I saw closer to the real Misfits lineup. To me, was like, we're just missing Danzig. You know, because you had fucking Robo on drums, and I was a drummer. And it was super cool. Robo was in Black Flag and fucking the Misfits and a whole bunch of early punk rock bands. And so it was rad. But that day, I remember skipping out on school the next day because I was so fucking dead tired. But downtown Chicago at the House of Blues, the original Misfits, and it just sitting there like, holy shit, I'm a drummer in a punk rock band in 8th grade, but like this is going to be what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That was the point where I was like, this is it. I'm going to fucking do it. And I've wasted the rest of my life trying to get to that point. Yeah.
Well, you're only kind of a piece of shit. Just like
right, yeah.
I'm only kind of a piece of shit.
Okay.
Who is the bigger piece of shit? That's what I want to know.
I'm the bigger piece of shit.
What makes you the bigger piece of shit? Because you went to college?
No, it just makes me a stupid piece of shit. High school's important, like
Yeah.
you were saying. Yes, do that. College,
I graduated high school. My
Maybe.
parents didn't think I was going to.
really?
Yeah.
It's not for everybody.
Well, I didn't go to school at all, man. I got so fucking bored and so burnt out. It was a struggle to get me through. When I graduated high school, my dad looked at me. He's like, "Well, we made it."
Wow.
It was there was like no big. I know they were proud, obviously, but it was funny because like the first words he said were like, "I didn't actually think you were gonna be able to walk" or some shit like that. He's like, I'm proud of you. You made it, but I really thought we were gonna find out last minute that you weren't walking or something.
Right.
So stay in school.
What was it? Was it just like, weed and smashing out car windows is more important?
I didn't smash out car windows. I just hung out with the kids who did.
Sure.
No, I promise. I had a strict rule against it. No, I don't know, man. I just got fucking burnt out. So I had a really hard time transitioning from like elementary school into junior high school. I just didn't like it, and I was probably bullied or some shit like that too, and I didn't want to go. So I spent every second I could trying to figure out how not to go. Unfortunately, that just carried on. High school, I was bored, and
High school is boring. It's daycare for near adults is
Yeah,
pretty much what it is.
but it's so important.
For the social aspect, in my opinion. So you were talking about how you wanted to get into like talking some politics and shit, and I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I can talk shit about public schools, and that it's great that yes, you have to go. Everybody has to go to fucking high school, and they have to pass their algebra classes, and they have to fucking do all the shit, and you have to go to the dance. Well, just thought came into my head. Like the things like the dances and the fucking parties and the shows that my punk rock band was playing in high school that is what is important of high school. It's you learning how to deal with your peers.
No, I agree. Like that's. Sorry if there's any homeschool kids listening to this, but that's why homeschool kids are normally like fucking awkward. So I agree with you, but I also think we take like I feel like, and this probably isn't true, but I feel like us as a society in America take it for granted. Like I don't know if it's the parents' fault or the students' fault, but like there are so many other people in other countries who don't get the opportunity to go to school and learn.
Right.
So like we should really be embracing that. And it's
Right.
it's tough because you're absolutely right. I feel like the most important thing people get out of school is the social interaction part. But when you break it down and when you like we should really be taking more out of it. And I blame myself for my school experience because for me, like, I was more concentrated on the social aspect of it because I totally was.
Yeah.
But there's so many people out there who don't get the opportunity to go to school and don't get the opportunity to learn.
You're right. I mean, this is coming from a place of privilege, obviously.
Privilege,
Like,
yes.
yeah,
So
it's
because
us
everybody gets to,
Right.
we get to decide
we get to
dick
shit
off.
on the system. It's like, you know, we're Americans. We're raised to bite the hand that feeds, right? I mean, like, we're born and bred and raised up in this society where it's cool and hip to be the fuck you guy. You know, that's how we kind of became who we are. But I agree in that it is important. People should take that shit more seriously and do well, and do not take it for granted. But it kind of it for the most part, at least my high school experience was like daycare, more so than it was actually learning or spending any time doing any of that kind of stuff. And as an adult, think about it this way. There are certain people who homeschool that purposely homeschool their children so that there isn't any other outside factors that are molding or shaping their children. Like, we want 100% to, like...
There's some part of that that's respectable, but
Right.
I also feel like where
What-
you're going with this is absolutely correct.
Like, what fucking adult in the real world has the privilege of being able to just close themselves in a bubble and not deal with the world around them?
White Americans.
Right. Exactly. But I mean, think about, like, every day you have to do something that you don't like to do. Every day you have to deal with some asshole that feels differently or is a cocksucker, you know? And it's like, this is probably a much bigger issue that we'll get to some other time, but I think that going through high school and being bullied and having a hard time and not having anywhere to fit in helped kind of shape me into who, and it prepared me for the fucking assholes that I deal with on a regular basis now, you know? And you can't just, like, live your whole life. This comes for both conservative and liberal people. You can't just surround yourself with people who are like-minded and live in your fucking happy little world where no one's going to challenge you. The whole point of life is being challenged and going out of your comfort zone and stepping out of your box and embracing different ideas and, you know, things that, I don't know. I'm rambling.
No, you're not rambling. I agree. Like,
Yeah.
I agree completely.
It's fucking high school. Like, work right now, think of, like, where you work and where I work. It's fucking high school.
Yeah, maintaining relationships that you don't care about.
Right.
Making yourself seem like a positive person in the face of all sorts of shitty things.
Right.
Yeah.
Life is fucking high school.
No, that's true.
And so we do take advantage of it as Americans, and we should be, like, putting our nose down and fucking learning our geometry. But we don't.
Yeah, no. Because we're privileged white Americans again.
Right.
But, yeah.
So anyhow, I know how we got into this, but are you excited to get back to playing music?
Yeah, super excited. I can't wait. So it's funny, when the show was getting set up, we were at practice, and Ethan was talking about Cold Blooded playing with you guys, and he's like, I don't feel like that makes a whole lot of sense, having Cold Blooded. For those of you who don't know, Cold Blooded is Ethan, the singer in my band. It's one of his other projects, because all the guys in that band have so many projects. But yeah, they're awesome. They're like metalcore. Is that what you call them?
I don't know. I'm really, like we were talking about before, I'm really weird, and I don't understand subgenres a whole lot. So, especially when it comes to metal.
Well, we're going to call them metalcore.
Right, okay.
Metalcore, they're good. They're really good. But yeah, they don't really go with Wasted Breath, and so he was talking about how that would be a weird show. So halfway through practice, he texted you up, and we got it all worked out that we were going to open for you guys.
Yeah, it's a good spot. You know, I think that it's kind of strange when it comes to our scene here in Spokane's a lot different than if you're in a larger city. and I only know this because of me playing and going to shows in larger cities, and that you have gone to shows in Seattle and stuff. But if you're a touring band, let's say, I don't know, to talk about some of my current favorite bands. Let's say you're a band like the Flatliners, who's a like a punk rock, more poppier type punk rock band.
Now the Flatliners, are you playing a show with the Flatliners?
And I fucking wish I was playing a show with the Flatliners.
Foxtrot, that's the show you just got done with, or
Right, yes, Foxtrot Epidemic. Better. We're not going to do touring bands. We're going to do local shit. Okay, so let's say Waste of Breath, we're going to put a tour together right now, right? We're going to do fucking Washington, Oregon, down to California. It would be wise for you to possibly choose bands that are kind of in the same realm of your shit. And the other night worked perfectly. It was Foxtrot Epidemic, and then Waste of Breath, which I'm a member of, and then Sid and the Emergency Exit were the headliners, and the progression was fucking awesome. They're all kind of the same genre of music. We're all buddies. We've known each other for about 10 years. Like, it's all of this sort of situation where it just meshed perfectly. So, like I was saying earlier about personalities, like, not only are we not going to stab each other if we all have to share gear or share a van or something, but our bands work well together, so the same crowd is going to come out.
Yeah.
If somebody's there to see Sid's band, they're going to be like, fuck yeah, Wasted Breath was awesome, and vice versa. But in a bigger city, sometimes you draw a better crowd if you kind of
diversify,
mix that shit up. I remember shows in Madison. Sorry, this is weird because I'm from the Midwest. So in Madison, Wisconsin, there would be shows where like my high school punk rock band would play with like a fucking reggae band would open, and then it would be us, and then like the headliner would be a fucking grindcore band or something completely weird. You'd see like some artsy fartsy shit going on, and then a punk rock band, and then a country band, and it was kind of cool because as long as it kind of revolved around like rock and roll, we're all fans of rock and roll, and so you have people coming in from all different directions and all different backgrounds, and then those people are learning of a new subculture and might like something,
right?
And so sometimes it works. So the thing with the Cold Blooded show, I was fucking stoked. Cold Blooded's on the same record labels as our two bands are on Black House, and Cold Blooded is much more successful than my band probably ever will be. And so I was stoked. I was like, yeah, we're gonna play with fucking Cold Blooded, and I love metal and I love hardcore, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this show, and it was going to be great. But on a positive note, it's a much better fit,
right,
to have Snakes. I get what Ethan was saying, but it also is important if you are a young person who's in a band and is branching out and trying to book more shit. I think that it is important to branch out and be like, I'm in a fucking crust band. I'm in a crust punk band, and I live in a fucking gutter. Who am I going to book a show with? Book a show with a jazz trio. Yeah, I know it sounds fucking stupid, but like, just do it and see if it works out. Meet other musicians, and if you fucking hate each other, you hate each other. But that's where creativity comes from. Like, you don't just listen to metal.
No, absolutely not.
And I don't just listen to punk rock. What is it? I've been talking way too much, so I'm going to put the pressure on you for a few minutes. What is it? How do you pick music that you like? Like, you were saying that like your first show was that fucking show by Davis's house with the metal bands.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's high energy.
Keep talking. I'm just
okay.
This off.
High energy, rock and roll based stuff. Loud drums, fast, a lot of guitars. So anything that is in that realm is something that I'm going to be interested in. How about you?
Well, no, I'm going to be the dick. We only got 23 minutes of all that, by the way, but we'll just keep going with the audio.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I don't know. The way I pick bands, I guess, is sporadically.
You listen to hip hop.
Yeah. So I listen to. I like.
That's not what the kids call it these days, right?
I think that's what the kids call it these days. I listen to I like people who are good with words. So I like to tell stories. I like to hear stories. And I feel like hip hop does a really good job at that. Especially when they're good like rappers or good hip hop artists. You get a whole story. I don't know. You get the wordplay, you get stories. I like that. I choose music, I guess, I don't know, like I said, randomly. I have a bunch of bands that I used to listen to when I was a kid, and I still listen to most of those, and every now and then, you know what I do now, honestly, is I go to, like, fucking Spotify or something, or
It's awesome.
Pandora, or, just hear other genres like that, and I don't know. I do a lot of digging. I like to say that I fall down a lot of rabbit holes. I'll sit there and I'll listen to one guy. So I'll listen to like a Steve Vai on guitar or a whatever, and then I'll find Buckethead, and then you find all sorts of just random shit. And that's kind of how I find the music I like, is either people telling me about it or falling down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, YouTube and Spotify, and I never got into Pandora, but Spotify is very, very...
Well, Pandora was first, I think, right?
I think
it
so.
was Pandora. I found the first time I ever heard of Pandora, first of all, I thought it was fucking amazing. Second of all, I was working at a sushi restaurant downtown, and I think it's illegal technically what they did, because if you work at a restaurant, you're not technically supposed to use like Pandora.
You have to buy that canned music shit.
I think so, or you have
it's
to
on
at
a
least pay for
CD.
the license.
Yeah.
But they would use Pandora because they got all their island music because the people who owned it were from Hawaii or Guam or whatever. So they got to listen to all their Hawaiian music. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of fucking Pandora, and I thought it was amazing.
Guam. I haven't heard that in a long time.
Well, we had people from all over the place, man. It was kind of cool working there.
Yeah. The Pandora thing is awesome. That was kind of the beginning of it. You know, it's still a strange situation and transition for me because obviously we're at the age where when we first started to get into music, it was tape. Like I would buy cassette tapes. And then around high school, my CD collection was fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. And then when you move across the country, you know, when you move to a different town, you just don't want to take all that shit. But I did, you know, like I had those big stupid Tupperware totes, like
oh, you brought all of them, like
yeah, I did.
Jewel cases and everything.
Yeah, because I had this big display. It was like, you know how people do that with movies now, where they'll build a fucking
wall or whatever. Yeah.
And I had a wall of CDs. Like, have you seen Henry Rollins's collection?
I haven't seen his, but
I don't know how possessive of someone's last name ending in an S works. Rollins. Henry Rollins Carr.
Oh, I think it's just Henry Rollins. Yeah, like
Henry Rollins Carr.
I've done this with Davis when I
Davis's.
It's not Davis's. It's just Davis's. I guess it is.
So if you're saying Henry Rollins' music collection,
Henry Rollins' music collection is how it would be.
Okay. Well, anyhow,
Fucking English language.
right. He has an extensive vinyl collection. That's his new thing now that he talks about on his podcast a lot. But you know, 5-10 years ago, his CD collection was just fucking insane. He had an office that's just all... Good one. Good job. Give that a 3 out of 10. So he had a whole fucking office where it was just crazy jewel cases and CDs and shit. So when I moved, I was like, well, I can't just like throw all these cases out. Like, I want a wall of CDs where I can show off that I'm into... You have a chick come over when you're single... You know, remember back in the day when you were single?
I don't remember this. No.
And you're like, man, some people have like an extensive book collection. And they're like, oh, when I bring a girl over, they're going to see this extensive book collection and they're going to think I'm smart and they're going to want to.
Peacocking.
Right, yeah. So I would peacock, like, yeah, I listen to Duke Ellington. I fucking listen to John Mayer. I listen to fucking Cannibal Corpse. Like, I would have the whole fucking gamut of music on display. So when you walk in, kind of like our house now, like, you walk in and you know exactly what we're into.
What you're getting yourself into.
Right.
For those of you who've never been to Dusty's house, it's like walking into a trinket store.
It's
But it's all the coolest fucking shit.
it's not. It's all garbage.
It's all garbage, but it's all amazing shit. It's like all shit that I wish I would have owned at one point in time.
I think it's the beginning stages of hoarding, but
It's definitely that, but it's controlled chaos is what I like to call it.
we'll find out in about 10 years where that goes. But I brought 3 fucking totes full of those fucking jewel cases with CDs in them because I wanted to put them on a wall somewhere and I wanted to be able to show people like, let me find that MXPX CD. There it is, and pull it out and fucking play it for somebody. I do that with my records now in my house, but we're living in a weird situation where we have come through 5 or 6 different ways of listening to music, from cassette tapes to now. I put all of those fucking CDs onto an iPod, and now my iPod is outdated, and I don't use a computer so much anymore. And so now instead of having something on me, it's just in my cell phone. And I go to Spotify, and I discover music through Spotify. And I don't... This is horrible, because I try to support local music as much as possible and my favorite bands, but... I'm usually discovering music through Spotify for free. I don't remember the last CD I bought.
Well, they get royalties off of it.
They do.
I don't know. You're the one who's... I'm assuming you run the Spotify shit.
I don't.
No, who does that?
So, there is... You're going to meet Scott eventually, the owner of Black House.
I see him all the time.
So.
Or I see his posts, I should say,
Pull
on
my finger.
Facebook.
I wonder if that shows up on the fucking audio.
Oh, we'll find out.
So, Scott Rozelle is the owner of Black House Records. It's based in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And on his record label, he has crazy amounts, just a whole bunch of different music from all different...
Oh, I know. I see.
It's all over the...
I see
all over the board.
The posts all the time. Like I'm trying to become more active in the community, I guess you'll say. And I see his shit all the time, and I'm always like, well, maybe I should buy albums off of him. But I don't listen to vinyl, and he sells a lot of vinyl.
He does, but he also has a lot of CDs. They have a couple compilations they did, and
Compilation, I should do that.
that was the shit when we were kids. I don't know if metal bands do
Oh
that.
yeah, dude. That's how okay, so that is how I found a lot of the bands I listen to
Yeah.
now, or a lot of the artists, I guess I should say, because like you heard some of those early compilation albums, and you got to hear weird bands that you never thought you'd heard before or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's how I found Killswitch Engage. Was not because I heard Killswitch Engage on a compilation album, but it was because I heard Howard Jones in Blood Has Been Shed on a compilation album, and I think Atreyu was on there, and like all sorts of weird
Yeah.
metalcore.
Those are great. Those fucking compilations are, that's how our generation, that's how you used to find out about other bands. But
I was talking to somebody about this too the other day. That I wish I could remember who it was. It'll come to me halfway through this story, I'm sure. But like when people nowadays they buy a single, like they'll go to iTunes and they'll buy a single.
yeah.
Back in my day, way back when, you used to go to the store and you'd buy an album.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I was talking to my tattoo artist about this. I was talking to Wayne about this because we were talking about how some of the best purchases we ever made were from looking at album art. And like
Fuck yeah.
album art is one of those things that's gone now, or it's not as important.
Right.
Like I remember you dig through CDs because I wasn't a vinyl or guy, and I didn't start buying music until I was buying CDs. But I dig through CDs until I found a fucking sweet album cover.
Yeah.
So like that's how I found Slipknot.
Yeah.
The cover of their first album was fucking awesome, and I
Right.
remember me and Davis were looking through it, and he was talking about how he had heard this band was cool, but the album cover was so fucking cool that I had to buy it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's like a lost art, is being able to experience the full album. And at that point too, like, you buy singles now, but back then you bought an album and you were invested however much, $15 or whatever, into the album. So you listen to the whole goddamn thing.
Right. Yeah.
Now you listen to a song, and I do it. I know I do it.
Yeah.
When I hear bands or whatever, I'm like, oh, I like this song, and then I'll fucking put that song on replay sometimes, and I hate myself for doing it.
Right.
But I'm not as invested as I once was, and I think that's the problem: is the physical media is gone, or most of the physical media is gone, so you lose your connection with the artist.
Yeah. It's the same thing with movies and the idea of, I remember being a toddler, like one of my earliest memories is going to fucking Hollywood Video and walking down the aisles, and like I would pick out kids movies by how cool the usually they would just put like the poster or whatever on the front of the VHS tape.
Yeah.
But I remember walking down aisles and it seemed like, a fucking labyrinth of VHS tapes. And you would walk and walk and walk, and then you'd find some cool horror movie based on like the shirt you're wearing right now.
Yeah.
Like, the Child's Play 2 movie. Fucking killer imagery, and that drew you into a film.
And that's where I got my love of horror movies from, was my sister used to scare the shit out of me when I was a kid, because she was a film critic, so she had movie posters up all over the place. So she'd put the horror ones outside of her door, because in hindsight she's fucking hilarious. But it would scare the shit out of me because I'd have to walk by her door to go to the bathroom. But that's how I fell in love with horror movies, was because I would, Friday night, for you kids nowadays who don't know, you would go to Blockbuster, or you'd go, and your mom or your dad or whatever would be like, hey, we got $5 to spend. And $5 meant you could get a brand new movie for 2 days, or you could get 5 different fucking old movies for like a week.
You always go for the 5 old movies.
So what I would do is I'd get the 5 old movies, and the ones that always had the coolest covers were the fucking horror movies. So I would buy, or not buy, I would rent 5 horror movies, and based off their covers, and I would go watch those with my buddies over the weekend and then through the week. Yeah. And that's how I fell in love with all my stuff.
So it is really important to have a good album cover, and even if it is going to be just a single that's released on Spotify or whatever the fuck it is, I thought long and hard about what our interests were as a band, and also what images we owned, because you have to own the artwork, and things like that, before I decided what imagery to use for our live album that we released. And
I like that too, the motocross guys. I was looking at that the other day because you had told me to listen to them on Spotify, to you on Spotify,
because you have to like my band.
I do like your band.
You're a fucking liar,
dude.
God damn it. But anyhow, it was my grandpa used to. We're on a crazy fucking tangent right now, but it was a photo that my grandpa took because he used to race.
Oh, he took that photo?
Yeah, it was my grandpa's photo.
See, that's even fucking cool.
And the reason why we chose that was because we actually owned that shit, and it wasn't like, I can't use that fucking porno poster photo because I don't own it. Even though that would be an awesome album cover, I can't fuck with that at all because somebody else took that photo, and that's some naked broad I'll never meet. So she's not going to get paid. You know what I mean? So I had my grandpa's photo of something cool, and I thought that if there was a kid who was like into rock and roll, they're probably going to be into motorcycles. I thought it was, a done deal.
I like it.
I thought it would sell, which we'll see. But
do you see any roads?
that's what I was talking about. It's this crazy fucking tangent we're on. Also, the thing about I'm a completist, and so in that I would go and I would buy an album at a record store, and I would want to listen to the entire fucking thing from start to finish.
Right.
So it's a ride. I mean, think of like Pink Floyd's The Wall is from the very first track all the way to, like, it sucks to have to flip over Dark Side of the Moon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're like in the fucking album, you're in the middle of
That's a good album too.
the story. But like you get to the end of side one, and you're like, fuck, no, like you have to get up and take the needle off and flip the fucking thing over and start over again. And you're like in this world that Pink Floyd has created for you. I'm totally talking like a stoner right now, but
Well, if you're gonna talk like a stoner, the best band to do it to is Pink Floyd.
yes. But I'm a completist in that, like, if you buy an album, you're supposed to listen to the whole fucking thing from front to back. And also, I'm that way with bands. Like, I have favorite bands. Never did it with Motorhead, which I regret, but, like, The Clash, you like one Clash song, you have to go out and you have to buy every single fucking Clash album. Because you don't understand the artist, you don't understand the band and what they're all about, in my opinion, until you, like, experience the entire fucking thing. Mm-hmm. So, you were asking about royalties. I've been like 90% of this fucking thing.
That's not true.
So-
We're gonna go back and listen. You're gonna be
Okay.
surprised by how. I'm pretty sure this is fairly even. So don't worry about it.
So, back to the Black House Records is owned by Scott Rozelle. Black House Records is based out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. They have a lot of hip hop and metal and punk rock bands. They're fucking great. Go check them out. Both Snakes and Sermons, Tim's band, and Wasted Breath, Dusty's band. We are on this record label, and I'm teaching you.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't.
Yes.
I don't.
So
This is not a conversation we've had in Snakes yet. So
you were curious about how royalties work. I'm not exactly sure either, but there is a piece of paper somewhere that has gotten signed or will get signed down the line that has percentages, right? Black House Records is owned by Universal.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is. I don't do anything with the fucking Spotify thing. Kyle wrote a song. Mm-hmm. I played on it. Mm-hmm. I made the connections with Black House. Mm-hmm. Black House took the album to fucking Universal. Universal shat it out on Spotify. And then so now you wait for how well it does. Our listens are below 1,000 per song.
Yeah, I know.
Right now.
So are Snakes. And I listen every day now to try to get that above.
There was a point, like, right after our album came out.
That you just had it on repeat.
Yeah.
Keep going. Gotta get it going.
Nobody else is going to know, right? That, like, it's me listening. I'm the only person listening to my fucking band. But, yeah, I was laying in bed thinking, if I just turn my phone all the way down... I sleep for like, and I leave the album on repeat for 8 hours.
That's like-
how many weeks would it take
To get over 1,000 listens.
for us to start being popular? It would just be me.
Is that how that works? You get a gold record now from...
I don't. Fuck. That's a conversation we need to have with Scott. I don't know how that shit works.
My so on the same topic, my tattoo artist Wayne, he worked at a shop down in Missouri, and it was owned by Riggs, I want to say is his name, but he was the guitarist for Rob Zombie.
Nice.
So he played on like the Dragula album, and he owns he has another band out now, and for the life of me I don't know what they are, couldn't tell you, don't really care. But Wayne would tell me that the only station they were allowed to listen to was Rob Zombie Radio, because every time it played a Rob Zombie song that he was credited on, he would get like 1/10 of a penny.
yeah.
So the station every day was on Pandora, and it was always Rob Zombie Radio, even though this guy Riggs was I think was his name. Fucking hated Rob Zombie because he got kicked out of the fucking band. And to be fair, he was replaced by John Five, and John Five is an amazing fucking guitarist. And I think he was replaced by John Five, but I don't know much about Riggs. I just know that that's a fucking hilarious story. I could totally picture a Dick Boss being like that.
God. Can you imagine, like, every time that fucking song comes on, it's not like, yeah, this is my song, but, like,
He's like, leave it on.
I fucked my life so bad.
I think the guy does just fine for himself, to be honest.
Right.
But it's still a fucking hilarious song.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how it works. But yeah, you don't start making money until it registers over a certain amount of listens. So it has to be listened to X amount of times before you start making money. You and I both have connections to people who do make money from being in bands. We're not there yet. Hopefully we will be someday soon. The Spokane scene is picking up a lot lately, and it all comes down to connections. You make that face, but
No, I'm just.
it's getting better.
I feel
man.
like I've heard it's getting better for the last. How old am I?
It's been a tough 10 years, but there are shows you play and you're like, what the fuck town am I in right now?
Just packed.
Yeah, it happens, and then you'll have a band that you'll play with. It'll completely clear out the entire fucking bar, but that's Spokane.
We were that band in Two Word Culture.
Really?
I'm sure. Nobody knew what the fuck they were listening to.
You guys were very politically driven too. That was also a big part of who you were. But as far as the Black House thing goes, and how you get paid, I had a buddy when I was living in Seattle. His name was Nick, and he was in a band called the Spits. Have you ever heard of the Spits before?
I think you've told me about them, but
So, the story behind that, they're Fat Mike from NoFX. They're his favorite punk rock band of all time.
oh,
Which is weird because, out of all the fucking bands in the world, he picked, like, a band the size of, like, Wasted Breath from Seattle,
they're a good band. They're a good band, right?
And their big claim to fame was that they had a song that was purchased by Apple
Oh, yeah, you told me about this.
for iTunes commercials. And so I was in college, I was working at Goodwill, and I was into punk rock. So I knew who the Spits were before I moved there.
Let him adjust his glasses really quick, everybody.
Right, yeah. So, fuck you. So I moved to Seattle because I wanted to record punk rock bands. So I moved out northwest, and I'm working at Goodwill and going to school. And there's this, I see this guy on the other side of the warehouse, like sorting through fucking shirts. And I'm going through like trinkets and shit, trying to price them and, sift through broken shit to price things. And I'm like, I know that guy from somewhere. And this is like my third week in Seattle. So I'm like, there's no fucking way I know who this person is. And we make eye contact, and eventually he comes over like an hour later and he gets in my face and he's like, what the fuck are you staring at? I got super mad and super violent. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but I think I've met you before. And I'm from Chicago. And he's like, there's no fucking way you know who I am. Just don't worry about it. And so after I worked there for about a year, we started to become friends. We started drinking together. And I go over to his house, and he has Spitz records on the walls. He didn't own shit. He had like a TV, his guitar, a laptop, and a couch. And he would just sleep on the fucking floor of his studio apartment. And so I go into the place, and he's got Spitz shit on the walls, and his place smells like fucking, stale beer and piss. And I'm like trying not to be snooping, but I kind of am snooping, and I'm like fucking standing in his kitchen, and I like look down, and there's like a fucking check from, I don't even remember, but it was like a check from some sort of record label situation or a contract that he had. And I was like, hey man, what the fuck is this? What is this about? It was like a check for like $4. And he's like, oh yeah, man, I was in a band here in Seattle, and Apple bought our song, and they play it on the TV every time there's like an iPod commercial that comes on. And I was like, oh, that's super fucking rad. And he's like, yeah, I don't have to really work. Like, I just go to Goodwill and like, punch a clock so I can drink.
Oh, so he worked at Goodwill.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Did I not say that already?
No, I thought,
Okay.
no. Sorry, you may have said it. I just may have missed it, but I thought
45 minutes ago when this fucking story began.
I thought you were
said
talking
it.
about like you were working at Goodwill and you were being a fucking creeper on some other guy who was shopping. But
No,
that's
only
pretty
on
hilarious.
women. I only creep on women. So I made that one. You gonna shoot it? Mm-hmm. And high five. Good job. We are awesome. Too bad we weren't filming that part.
Yeah, right.
Hold on a second. So I'm like, yeah, fuck, man, that's crazy. You're on TV, and he goes, yeah, I don't have to work. I'm there to like punch a clock and have something to do. That's my drinking money. I live off of the fucking spits. And I was like, holy shit. This is before like Spotify and Pandora and all that shit. That was just like, his shit was on TV. And, you know, you can't even find them like on social media nowadays. Like, they're just one of those bands that kind of, they had a huge following in Seattle. They got pretty big at one point. But he wasn't even in the band anymore. He was in the band on that one album where that song got purchased.
Right.
And he made a living from just being on that song, which is fucking crazy. Like,
That would be.
yeah. I don't know if that's the dream. I mean, that would be nice, but I mean, you know, I think maybe it'd be a lot better to actually tour on it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out, right?
Yeah, but did you?
Foreshadowing.
Well, if you're talking about us touring, do you think that's ever going to happen?
I don't see why not. We're both pieces of shit, remember? We talked about that at the beginning of this.
I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but these weekend things are a good idea. We went to Portland recently. We're going to start doing Seattle shows in the spring. And guess what? Snakes is invited to everything that we do.
I know, and I'm excited for it. And I hope the guys would be excited for it. I know, I think they'd be excited for it.
It's tough. Life gets in the way. Like, Steph and I are getting married this year and
Nobody.
all that kind of stuff. But, you know, life goes on. It's, that's the most important thing in the world right now. But I still want to be able to do the music thing. So we'll work it out. It'll happen.
Yeah.
So, did you want to start wrapping this up?
Yeah, it's probably time.
Okay.
Wow, we've gone for, looks like, over an hour.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
So, no one's going to listen to this point of the radio show.
No, but I figure what I'll do is I'll probably cut it in little sections and...
Yeah, for sure. So, what are you listening to right now, Tim?
Oh, I'm listening to the new Perfect Circle music that's coming out.
That's not what I was getting at. That's a whole different podcast.
You mean, what am I... I'm listening to Wasted Breath right now.
No, fuck off. We're going to end this now. You have been listening to Headliners with Tim and Dusty. We are going to be on bi-weekly,
Hopefully.
hopefully. And
This is kind of fun. We might do this... Maybe we'll do this, like, every night.
I don't know about that. People will get real tired of me really fast.
I don't think so. We're both fairly dumb and interesting people.
So, this is the end.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, you guys. Part of this is going to be on YouTube. Part of it we'll have on a podcast. Part of it we may just throw fucking anywhere. But yeah, if you enjoy it, make sure you subscribe or follow us or however the fuck we're going to do that. Yeah, and let us know things you want us to talk about. Let us know bands you want to hear about. Like if there's a local band especially that you want us to talk to or that wants to come on here and talk and promote something or whatever, let us know and we'll get that set up because that's really one of the main focuses we want to deal with is just promoting music and having a good time.
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point. We're going to talk about everything, obviously, but we're going to have plenty of people come on, hopefully, if this takes off. So let us know and, follow Snakes and Sermons on Facebook and Instagram, and
And-
follow Waste of Breath on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm Dusty O'Brien on Facebook and Instagram. And Tim,
I don't know what I am, but just go
his,
ahead.
his name is Tim Fetters.
But I don't know what I am on Facebook or Instagram. I don't really use either. But check out Snakes and Sermons. If you have any questions, get a hold of me there. I think we're going to set up a probably, I don't know, a whole new email and Facebook page and probably YouTube page for this too. So get a hold of us on there. And yeah.
Let us
Thanks.
know how you like the podcast, and we will see you sometime soon.
Out.
Have a good evening.
Seacrest.
Seacrest out!